Well guys, it's going to be an interesting one today. So I drove to town just kind of impulsively to get out of the house. I was wearing a nicer pair of slacks and some dress shoes just because I'm fancy like that, I guess. And then I realized, what am I doing? I don't have any plan in mind. So I thought to myself, go out, clear your head. What better way to do it than to film some wildlife for you guys? So I came out to Cullinan Park in Sugar Land, which has some incredible wildlife. There's a lot of carp out here that I wanted to show you on camera. I've also seen coyotes on more than one occasion, lots of armadillos, some of the feral pigs that are out here you get to see every now and then, lots of birds, which you can probably hear in the background behind me. And I thought, okay, we'll spend a few hours out here. Because I didn't have a really good change of clothes in my car, I'm wearing sweatpants, tennis shoes, and then just a plain gray shirt, which I'm sure shows up great on camera. All gray really stands out. Anyway, we come out here. First thing I notice is this sign that says, "Caution due to inclement weather," and it has been raining pretty bad out here. "Trails are extremely muddy." So I'm thinking to myself, oh, tennis shoes, that's perfect. And then I come over here. This is the pathway I needed to take to get to our first spot. Trail closed for construction. Now, I am not one to break the rules. I spent a good number of years of my working life enforcing rules to protect parks and things of that nature. So obviously I'm not going to break the rules. I'm going to follow the pathway down behind me. Now there's lots we can still see going in this direction. It might just take us longer to get where we're going, but we're going to give it a shot. I expect to get extremely dirty, probably wet, and because this was an impulsive move, I didn't bring any water with me. Normally I always have water with me when I go out into any park or outdoor area, go fishing. Bring water with you. I didn't do that today. So who knows, we might cut this short, we might not. Fingers crossed something pans out and we see more out here than just hikers and their dogs. So let's not waste any more time, let's get moving. Time's short already. We're burning daylight. Name of the movie. Well, the barrier was down. I thought that meant I could go through it. If I had $1 for every time I've heard that excuse, I'd be a rich man. I'd be filming this on a much better camera. People visiting parks, zoos, aquariums, and museums. When you see a barrier that somehow has fallen in one spot, that does not mean you get to go through it. It means people should be coming out here to fix it soon. Don't go through it. We're gonna keep going. That's where I wanna be. It's very tempting. The creek that I wanna fish in is right there. And there are lots and lots of carp and gar in there. And I could easily get to it 60, 70 feet away, but I'm gonna respect the rules and wishes of the people managing this park, and we're going to keep going. Also, and I'm glad we did, right on the ground in front of me, I've lost sight of it, but we're going to find it. Put my stuff down. I just caught sight of a frog, a really well camouflaged frog, because I do not see it, but I know he's there, so let's see if we can find that frog for you. Take my glasses off, and my backpack. My left hand is my frog catching hand. There he goes. Oh, there's another one. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Oh, yeah. Oh, there he goes. Hang on. Oh, come back. Nope. Man, can you imagine, like, the human equivalent of how fast he's going? Can you see him there? There he is, right there, center screen. Look at that camouflage. That is absolutely fantastic. And try to get closer. That's the thing about filming with a mobile device, a phone. Really good picture quality when your zoom is not engaged. Which, I mean, it's counterintuitive to filming wildlife, not to use your zoom. But you can see them better the closer we get. Look at that. Let me try to steady this thing. I'm holding it with one arm outstretched while in a kneeling position like a catcher, because otherwise this guy's just not letting me get close to him. Fantastic. Fantastic animal. I don't know what species that is. We'll have to look this one up. I don't know if that's a fully grown species or if that's the juvenile stage of another species of frog. It's not any of the ones I recognize. It's not any of the tree frogs out here. It doesn't look like a pickler frog or a leopard frog or any type of bullfrog. Change the angle so you can see him from the side. Really neat looking animal. Let me see if I can catch him. I'm just going to cut my hand over him. I'm not going to put any pressure on his body. I'm going to use my hand as a shell and just kind of cup it over him, if I can. Okay. Gently kind of cradle him. Got him. Now I fully expect him to jump clean out of my hand the moment it's open. Oh, look at him. Oh, there he goes. All right, think we found our pathway finally to get over to the creek. But on the way over here, look what we found. Look down here. Look at the size of these tracks. There, here, here, and here. To give you some scale, there's my hand next to these tracks here and here. These are pig tracks. And the way you tell the difference between a pig's track and a deer track is the deer's track, I'm just going to draw it in the mud here, has a much more closed toe shape to it. So the toes kind of come together in a point in the end. Pig tracks, on the other hand, kind of stay open at the ends. They don't slant inward. And for those of you who don't know me, I have really big hands. These were big, big pigs. And there's different tracks that just kind of spread out going this way towards the water source. Check that out. A bone of a very large animal. Very oddly shaped too. There's only a few animals out here that have bones this big. More than likely this is some pig, very large pig, and if I had to guess, I'm not an expert, but if I had to guess, this is a bone out of the pig's leg, probably its femur. Really interesting, really big. Let's keep moving forward. Here we are. Now the last time I was out here, this was a tree line. As you can see, they have not only taken down the tree line, but shredded the wood to form a pathway. But I don't think it's going to matter, because I just saw two boils in the water, there and there. Now last time I was here, they were actually in the middle of constructing that side. They were tearing everything down, and they hadn't gotten to this side yet. And I was really worried. I was worried that the activity would put off the fish, and I didn't catch any fish that day at all. But I am seeing lots of activity in the water. I think some of it's turtles, but I also think some of it's fish. So let's try to find a good spot. Put some lines in the water. Alright guys, I think this is going to be a pretty good spot. I saw a couple of trails of bubbles coming up out of the water. Typically that's indicative of a feeding carp. It could be the plant matter at the bottom of the creek decaying and releasing methane gases to the top. But as carp swim on the bottom of the creek bed, what they're doing is they're constantly sucking up material and spitting it back out, selecting what they want to eat. And that stirs things up and you get this trail of bubbles coming up behind the carp. And if you're stalking carp, and this type of fishing is called stalking. We're not distance casting. I mean, look, this thing is 20 feet wide. It's much harder in my opinion, and you have to be able to see the signs of the fish to know where they're going to be to catch them. So I think this is a pretty good spot. We have the bubbles coming up here, lots of snags in the water, which a lot of people avoid snags because they get their lines caught, but fish go to the snags for a reason. When you see a lot of debris in the water, that's a good fishing spot. So just gear up accordingly, fight the fish accordingly. Because if you go out into a wide open expanse of water where there's nothing in the water to attract or hide fish, you're probably not going to catch anything. So yeah, bubbles here. Also, you can see that bridge behind me over there. That's a little stream letting out into the water. And anytime you have the meeting of two water sources, I find that's a really good spot for fish because it just introduces nutrients from one source into another, and it draws fish to it. Yeah, I think this is going to be a good spot. Let's get some bait in the water. Alright, so here's a trick for you guys. Whenever you have a creek that you know is going to have a really muddy bottom to it, when you're casting your bait out, if you don't have expensive pop-up baits and stuff like that, you're just using bread or corn, what I like to do is I like to put corn on the end of my hook, and right at the eye of the hook, I'll put a flattened out, compressed piece of bread. So what that's going to do is your line sinks to the bottom. If there's a lot of thick mud, and your bait will kind of sink down into the mud, that's not good because the carp's really not going to find it. So what you do is you put that little piece of bread on the end, so as it sinks down, the surface area, the extended surface area of that bread kind of keeps it floating on even the softest of mud, and your corn kind of sticks up into the water. It's kind of like a hack for a pop-up bait if you don't have pop-up baits. I find it works really, really well in really muddy conditions. To me, another big challenge is casting. Because I don't want to stand up and overhand cast, I just want to kind of pitch it out there. Just barely stand up. Perfect. Oh, you guys see that? Look at that. Huge wake in the water. That is a really big fish. Something spooked it. Something spooked it. I wasn't talking into the camera when it happened. I'm keeping a pretty low profile. Sometimes these fish just bump into each other, getting little scuffles over food, but that is a great sign. And that proves that these bubbles I'm looking at are in fact fish, which means we've got bait in a really good spot. I'm gonna go ahead and set out a second rod. That was a big fish. Well guys, we've encountered a problem. I have felt a couple of insects crawling on me, which is totally normal when you're out fishing. I'm used to it, so I ignored it for a while until I saw one of them. Let me see if I can get one, because this will be the third or fourth one I've picked off my clothing. If you can see that on my hand there, if you don't recognize what that is a flea. And every single time, there you go, you see my finger right there at the edge of my finger. Every single time I pull one of these fleas off of me and crush it, because let's be honest here, I don't like to kill animals, but fleas are an exception. Every time I've crushed one of them, it's just been full of blood, and I know that blood is mine. And sometimes that happens during a flood. I've noticed you get this influx of fleas out in areas like this after you have a flood. It might be due to the fact that all this shredded wood has been spread out everywhere. Everything's been tilled up and churned up, and they've been displaced. I don't know, but man, I really don't want to be covered in fleas. God, these things are everywhere. Ah. Oh, there he goes. It's one of the problems with fishing with two rods, and a lot of people like to use these alarm setups where you set your rods in them, and each one's got an electronic alarm that's audible and visual with a little flash of light. And as anything touches your line, it'll beep, 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 and it'll flash this light at you, and it's a good indicator without having to feel lines and watch lines. I don't have one of those because they're expensive and I'm poor, but also it's not my preferred method of fishing. I like to be in more direct contact with the baits in the line. But the trade-off is it makes fishing with more than one rod extremely difficult. So here I am. I've got one rod sitting to my left and one rod sitting to my right. And I'm just trying to compromise here don't want to lose sensitivity in either one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to makeshift a bobbin here. So a bobbin is a little device. When you set your rod in those rod racks, you hook this little device over your line, and as the fish pulls your line, it moves the bobbin up and down. And they make all kinds of crazy ones, some glow in the dark and mad stuff like that. I am just going to use a stick with an angle on it, like that. I'm going to pull some slack in the line, hook it with this, and maybe just weigh it down to something light, like another light piece of wood like this. So when that fish pulls on that line, I will see this stick move, and I've caught a ridiculous number of carp doing exactly this. Fishing does not have to be expensive, guys. It really doesn't. It does need to be efficient, though. I can feel fleas crawling on my back as we speak, which is lovely. Why do fleas exist? Does everything have to have a purpose in nature? You know, are they a food source for something? Are they population control for larger mammals? Or do they just exist because they can? I understand the plight of dogs now. Finally, fish on, and it is a big fish, guys. It's pull and drag on this reel that I use for red drum and small sharks. Oh man, this is a really nice fish. I don't want to lose it. Oh, it's going for the snag. No, you don't. Okay guys, I see what's up. It is both a huge fish. Oh my gosh, it's enormous. And it's foul hooked. It's foul hooked. That means the hook is not in its mouth. It's in its fin. But this is a huge fish. All right, I'm gonna get my shoes muddy. I'm gonna chance going down there to get this. Oh my goodness. Hang on. If I can get this fish up on the bank, this will all have been worth it. This is a PB for me. Come here, you. Oh my goodness, what a fish. Ugh. Look at this guy. Ugh. Come here. Wow. What a huge fish. I'm so excited right now. I'm so happy. Now this is, if I'm not mistaken, calm down. Wow. Let me look at its fin. Yeah, this is a smallmouth buffalo. And it's a big one. Way bigger than the ones we've caught in the pond. And you can see the hook is right here in its pectoral fin. Or its second set of fins here, which made it really hard to fight. It's also huge. I'll get the hook out in just 1 second. But let me show you the fish first. Man, this is a strong animal. Look at his face. So it's almost like, I thought about it later, it's almost like a fish and an elephant mixed. Fishophant. Or elefish, that's better. Listen, can you hear that? When he sucks in, he makes that sucking noise. That's what I was hearing on the surface of the water. This is a really big fish. Man, I'm so pleased with this. This was worth all the fleas. This was worth the weight. This is worth the ants and the mosquitoes. Of course, there's a fish messing with my other line right now as we speak, which I'm going to have to set the hook or let the drag out, because if I don't, it's going to pull the rod in the water. But man, look at this gigantic smallmouth buffalo, and they do get bigger than this. I would put this fish maybe just under 17 pounds maybe. This is probably about a 17-pound fish, pushing 20. I don't think he's quite 20 pounds. I think he's closer to 17 pounds. But this is just such a fantastic, fantastic fish out of this small creek. Really put up a great fight, and I'm gonna go ahead and put him back now. All right, guys, a fish this big definitely deserves a quick release and one on camera. I'm gonna actually take him down here where the bank is a bit shallower. I'm just gonna have to kind of slide him into the water. Here we go, that's a good spot. Now, as soon as he hits the water, he's probably gonna take off. Oh, there he goes. I just dropped him. Kicked out of my hands, but he's good. And he's gone. Wow, what a fantastic day. Amazing fish. I'm a mess. As you can see, I'm covered in fish slime and leaves and dirt and mud. But I couldn't be happier right now. You hear how I'm breathing? I'm not tired, those are nerves. I get so excited every single time that happens. Now we could stay here and keep fishing, but it's getting late. That much racket's probably gonna scare most of the other fish off anyway. But I'm happy with that. That was a fantastic animal. On the way out of here, we'll keep our eyes peeled. If we see any snakes or frogs, we'll stop and try to get them on film. These videos were never meant to just be about fish. We're targeting a lot of fish species right now because with the changes in the weather, especially since it's been very cold lately, it's very hard for me to get reptiles and amphibians on camera. Birds are hard to get on a mobile phone or a mobile device because the zoom isn't as high quality. Same thing with mammals. Mammals and birds come out in the cold weather frequently. I mean, they're really easy to spot. They're really hard to film. I still see fish. There's still fish out here, but we're still gonna head out. But we're gonna try to find as many different species as we can. Right now, fish are kind of the focus just because that's what I know I can get to. Oh, what a day. What a day. What a fish and what a place to catch it in. Guys, would it be one of my videos if we walked next to a pile of tin and didn't flip it? The answer is no. So let's very carefully see what we can find under these. Nobody appears to be home here. It's actually snakes, obviously, one of the things I'm looking for, but there's two invertebrates that I would love to show you that really like this type of habitat. Nobody's home here. You really need to look. Don't ever lift up a board or a tin, just glance at the ground and assume that there's nothing there. Actually made that mistake once and was bitten by a copperhead as the result of it. I spent 2 nights in the hospital and couldn't walk properly on my right leg for another 7 months. So, not something I want to endure again. Doesn't appear that there's anyone home here. That was also the single most painful experience of my life. Not the actual bite itself, but the aftermath of it. The immense swelling and necrosis of tissue in my leg. Oh, but look guys, there's plenty of fleas to be found. If you look right where that spider's web is, right there, is a very small, just kind of lean this against that tree there. It's a very small 5-line skink kind of trying to scurry around us. There he is. You see him? Like I said, really hard to get my hands on one of these guys. But also, I want to have a look at this spider web. I don't want to ruin it, but... Oh, there we go. Look at that. Someone's home. That's really cool. Oh, you see that? That is super cool. So you've got the web, and then it kind of funnels around that central point, and that spider just disappeared down in the center of it. And guys, guess what? While I was looking so carefully at that spider's web, I noticed something else. Tell me, do you see anything in this picture? Do you see any wildlife that stands out? Well, if you've got very good eyes, and you look right here where my finger's pointing, you'll notice this is not a stick. It's a bug that looks like a stick. Really cool. Look at this walking stick. Just blends right in. Man, the camouflage that these guys have is phenomenal. Let me turn the camera around. There you go. It's a good close look at him. My hands are a little bit shaky. That is such a cool animal. If you look, two of his legs are kind of positioned out in that X shape, and then the other two are kind of pointing forward. Look at his face. Get the camera in focus here. There we go. What a neat looking animal. So cool. And if I put him, I mean, you can see he would just disappear into these sticks. You know, if I pull the camera out of focus, if my hand wasn't here, you wouldn't be able to tell what was what. Really, really cool. Oh, did you see that? He actually left my hand and decided to hang out on a stick. Now we could leave him here, but I don't want to do that because we pulled him out of an area that he chose to hide in, and we don't want to expose this animal to birds or any other predators. I mean, if something gets him naturally without our interference, whatever, that's the way nature works. You got to let it work that way. But for now, we're going to put him back right there where he chose to be originally. We'll put this tin down over him. There we go. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Got to see a spider, a skink briefly, and a walking stick. Now, if only I could find a snake. Alright guys, I'm just kind of frozen on the pathway here. We were walking out, and up in front of me I just noticed this irregular shape, also frozen in the thicket up ahead. Look what we've encountered. This is really cool that we've gotten this close to an enormous rabbit. Look at this. Look straight ahead, center screen. You'll see that irregular shape, and as we zoom up on it, look at that, there he is. A huge rabbit. I don't think that's a cottontail rabbit. Now, I don't know if that is technically a separate species or if that is just a rabbit that is characterized by a darker coloration but is of the same species. But that is a very large, very dark colored rabbit. We're going to try to see if... Oh, there he goes. I took one step and he's gone. Oh, that is so cool. Well guys, I'm exhausted. I'm covered in sweat and mud and leaves and fleas and fish slime, and I couldn't be happier right now. What a cool trip to the park. I got to see a huge smallmouth buffalo, the walking stick, spiders, small frog, that rabbit, just small things that most people take for granted, but just absolutely fantastic. If you really just take your time out in your local park, or even just, you know, a set of woods or a group of trees or a pond or a creek next to your house, something small, you can see the coolest stuff. And we're definitely coming back out here. This is a park I've been to plenty of times, and every time I come out here, I see something that just blows my mind. Just absolutely wonderful. So I think priority for now, go home and get cleaned up. Oh, turn on that air conditioning, and we'll see you guys next time. Cullinan Park, people. Sugar Land, Texas. Visit it. It's awesome.